Good afternoon, good evening, everybody. My name is Nancy VanReece, the chair of the LGBTQ Caucus, representing Metro Council District 8. This meeting is being held because of the electronic situation virtually, and will be posted by Metro ITS within 48 hours of its conclusion. We have present with us at this time 4 members of the 5 in the historic Nashville LGBTQ Caucus. My vice chair, Mr. Weathers, our secretary, Mr. Bradford, as well as Councilmember Zach Young. Councilmember Emily Benedict is on her way and should be joining us shortly. We also have on the call 5 attendees, including representation from the mayor's office, Belmont University, and other neighborhood leaders in this particular area. The reason that this meeting was called all of a sudden was because we do have to provide notice to the public before we meet. And so we wanted to make sure we got this meeting on the calendar so that we would be able to discuss this and of the council meeting coming up. I'm going to, and welcome Councilmember Benedict. I'm going to share my screen very quickly on a couple of different things so that you have an idea of where I'm coming from on this. When I noticed on the agenda of the school board meeting that the memo of understanding with Belmont University on the Rose Park project was coming up, it was drawn to my attention of a particular language in the Belmont Nondiscrimination MOU that used the phrase illegal discrimination. A lot of folks may not be aware of the fact, if you're not involved in LGBTQ causes, that that particular phrase is being used more and more often as a terminology to not specifically, explicitly demonstrate inclusive non-discrimination. So I saw that that was, it popped out to me. So I contacted the school board folks. Of course, my school board member exiting, Jill Spearing leaving, contacted with Emily Masters coming in. I contacted Frida Player on the school board to express my concern that there was not an fully inclusive language regarding non-discrimination. And she brought it forward with the folks at school board level, but the memo was approved at that meeting without any changes. So I immediately called this meeting to be able to talk about the importance of this caucus being mindful anytime that there's a non-discrimination policy within Metro, that we make sure that it is explicitly inclusive and not just implied. And with that, fairly immediately heard from representation from Belmont and from their attorneys who drafted the language with a bit of mea culpa in regard to not being explicit, and during the course of our conversations have made a change in that memo. Excuse me, you guys received a copy of both the legislation, the substitute, and the lease agreement. The lease, if I can find it, the lease agreement now indicates clearly in paragraph 5, the changes have been made, and you can see there on your screen that the discrimination against or segregation of any person, group of persons, or entity on the basis of race, color, creed, religion, age, sex, marital status, national origin, sexual orientation, gender identity, gender expression, or ancestry in the enjoyment of the property or portion thereof. That was, as far as I was concerned, what I was looking for in regard to the change on this memo. It is reflective of the Metro policy as well as Metro Nashville Public Schools, and therefore reflects a more explicit intent in regard to non-discrimination as it relates to this property. So that gives you some ideas to why the meeting was called, what's happened since this meeting. And I wanted to be able to kind of now just kind of open it up with us to be able to talk about the idea of being mindful of these things and any discussion as it relates to this particular document that you guys might want to have. So feel free to speak as you wish.
I'm actually a co-sponsor of this legislation, so I'll chime in and say I'm kind of shocked that this resulted in a meeting of the caucus, because this seems like something that very easily could have been handled in an email, because it was handled and worked out earlier. And so I feel this is actually incredibly disrespectful to the Edge Hill community, as if they feel like this might be an opportunity for us to discuss the merits of the legislation, as was like an email we received from them, and disrespectful of university and their representation, and frankly of our time. I mean, this was just a little small thing that was easily handled, and I guess I don't understand why we needed the pomp and circumstance of being called out to a meeting on a Friday night like this. And so I don't understand that, but that's just, y'all know I have no filter and don't mind speaking my mind.
Chair VanReece. Chair VanReece, can you hear me?
Yes, go ahead.
Thank you. I'm working in the office, I'm catching up on work at the office, which is why I have my mask on. So I apologize for that. I appreciate the perspective of Councilmember Young on that. At the same time, I do feel like this is appropriate. At our listening session, I don't think we're really talking about the merits of the legislation per se, but anytime the Metro Council is looking at a lease agreement or something like that, we want to be sure that at least we're looking at things from an equity lens in a number of perspectives, and LGBTQ issues are one of those. And because it is a little bit of a specialized perspective, I think that this is an appropriate time just to check in on that. I appreciate the activity that happens, certainly. I definitely appreciate that. And I'll also say, this is an area in which I kind of struggle myself, being that many cities, but especially Nashville, Tennessee, relies quite a bit on public-private partnerships in order to serve our constituents. And especially here in Nashville, Tennessee, we work quite a bit with the faith community. And the faith community sometimes does a lot of great work, but has different beliefs on different things. And I respect the rights of religious and faith communities to do that. But so this is something that I think that I would hate to have sort of always be, I would hate to sort of say that we will not work with people that, or denominations or things like that don't have an LGBTQ inclusive policy as part of their denomination, let's say. But I think this is a conversation that we always need to have, and that we need to encourage it, and be respectful and appreciative of Belmont in particular for working so diligently on this to address it. Sometimes things, I think, as you stated really well, I think sometimes groups or organizations try with the best of intentions to be as inclusive as they can, but they don't think of everything. I know for LGBT, trans issues, gender, I'm a cisgender man. There are a lot of things about gender expression I just don't think about. And so it's something that we want to open up to, particularly the folks that look to the LGBTQ caucus. We want to open them up. We want to talk about it. I don't think we always need to take a hard line in the sand, but sometimes just having that conversation publicly helps to make sure that this is addressed. Other bodies and organizations that work with Metro will look to these conversations, including this one, and say, you know, hey, do I need to think about that too? I think just that, the fact that this is recorded tells organizations working with Metro government, hey, have we thought about that? And I think many of them will in that regard. So this can be instructive to anyone who wants to work with Metro government. I think it's also indicative of the LGBTQ caucus that amongst the 5 of us, we are all very different people and reach different conclusions. And so just amongst ourselves, sometimes it's an important conversation to have. So I appreciate you, Chair VanReece, in working on this. I definitely appreciate Belmont in working to address this very specific issue as well.
Thank you, Councilmember. Ms. Benedict.
Thank you, Chair. So I appreciate what both of my colleagues just said. For me, I just want to make this short and sweet. This is something that we absolutely needed to have a short meeting about, but I don't think our meeting needs to be 30 minutes long, 45 minutes long. This is a 5-minute conversation because it was handled via email. Once this was called out, they fixed it. But the caucus meeting, there's my dog. The caucus meeting is about us demonstrating and showing our faces and our commitment behind this, in a ball cap or not, showing our commitment behind this, that this won't be tolerated. If somebody wants to do business with our city, we want to make sure that they're as inclusive as possible. We can't legislate that. The state won't let us. But we're standing up and showing folks, make sure that you're including the LGBTQ community. Period, paragraph. That's been included now. We get a chance to put that out there via this web call, and we can be done in 5 minutes if we want to be. But I understand we're learning here and we're trying to find our way. But I feel like everything has been resolved at this point. And I'm glad to stay on the call however long we need to tonight, but I hope in the future, if we are able to handle something like this outside, that maybe we do still get together as a caucus to call attention to the fact that this is unacceptable and it needed to be fixed. And maybe it was fixed, but we want to make sure as many people as possible know that we had to actually ask for something to be fixed. So, with that, that's really all that I want to say. And, maybe in the future, I have one more thing to say. Maybe in the future, we do just do a press release and say, hey, this happened and here's the voice. But I think putting out a web call can be a better method to get that message out there, especially because we're relatively new. We're less than a year old, and we're still demonstrating to the public and to the press who we are and what we're about and why we want to work together to get things to further LGBTQ rights here in Nashville. So all of that to say, I have nothing more to say, and I'm ready, if I'm allowed to yet make a motion to adjourn, I will do so if that's a proper motion. But I want to make sure everybody has an opportunity to discuss. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Benedict. Mr. Bradford has not had a chance to talk, and we all have, so I wanted to afford him that opportunity.
I really have nothing to say. I appreciate that Belmont has heard our concerns and has fixed this glaring issue. But me personally, I don't think it really fixes Belmont's long-term history with the LGBT community and some of the other issues that they've had over the past. So even though that this issue's been fixed, I'm not going to be supporting this bill.
Thank you, Mr. Bradford. I don't necessarily want to discuss the merits of the bill. I just wanted to make sure that you guys knew that much like what was explained by Councilmember Benedict, the idea is that whenever we see something, we must say something. We represent 50 to 70,000 people in Davidson County that are calling on us to be looking not for what's in the contract, what's left out of the contract sometimes. And I am very happy with the response that Belmont University made very quickly, that the attorneys that caused the misconception fixed it very quickly. And we have an opportunity now to be able to let the general public know that we're watching and that we really like it when things work out. And so we do have 9 attendees that attended this, and we're not going to take any questions. This was just something that I needed to call the meeting in case it wasn't resolved. It has been resolved. And so with that, I welcome a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
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 Peace out. We'll see you guys next week. Bye.